Fall is upon us. How about we work on some fall crafts? I'm going to take this pumpkin. It's just a Walmart pumpkin. It's foam, styrofoam inside. It's got a little bit of a bluish tint. And we are going to add some crunchy leaves transfers and some dried wildflowers from Redesign by Prima. So we're going to pick out the ones we think look the best. I like to cut them out when I'm putting them on odd shaped items. I like to cut them out pretty close to the actual design. It doesn't matter as much if you're using a big flat, thing and you don't have to try to work around it. But I tell you what, I struggled on this one. I watched a video, totally stole this idea from somebody, and I am so sorry because I tried to find it and I cannot find out who it was. I can tell you, however, that I buy my Redesign by Prima transfers from Vintage BEE Designs. And so as soon as I saw that video, I hopped on and ordered these from her because I loved it. But I am so embarrassed that I can't remember who it is. Anyway, when I am doing round surfaces, or like in this case, bumpy round surfaces, I tend to cut the design and get the plastic cut as many ways as possible so that it doesn't restrict it from being able to go in those bumps. So you'll see here where I cut it apart several different times, and I would rip the plastic off of the parts that were already connected so it didn't get in the way. I ended up completely cutting off where this little daisy was and then putting it back on, but I'm careful to cut it where you can't really see, it goes back together very well. And when I do the next one, I did learn from this, believe it or not, I learned something to cut it apart before I started, so I didn't risk actually ripping it and doing something with it as I was going. But here again, you can see, once it's back together, you can't even tell I had cut that piece off. So I'm using the stick here that came with it, so it's a little very thin wood piece, and that's what I used to apply it. And then I'm just using a piece of the plastic to rub and burnish it down, making sure that there's not any areas on here that are not completely connected. So here I am doing another one. You can see I had cut it apart ahead of time, but I also switched to one of the plastic sticks that comes with the IOD transfers. I do actually like the plastic better. I felt like it was easier to get it to stick down. Maybe it's all in my head, but I do the same thing here, and I push them down. Transfers are so easy. They're wonderful for people like me that can't really paint designs very well. I'm definitely not a painter, and this allows me to have beautiful things that have wonderful flowers or lots of other designs, and I don't have to actually paint them myself. But yeah, attached this, did several of them to this pumpkin so that if it was sitting out on a table where you could see all sides and it wasn't just on a shelf or something where you could only see one side, I wanted to make sure it had a complete full look. So I did add several of these dried wildflowers around there. Here I am completely cheating. I got lucky here. This is major off-label ideas, and that is where I just started pulling it off and pressing it down with my finger. And like I said, sometimes they rip, so I did get really lucky here when I did that. So it is not my advice to do that, but hey, look, it worked. And again, grabbing a piece of that plastic and burnishing it down really well. I wanted to do something at the top, so I added these crunchy leaves, and I love the way it looked. It just came out perfectly. So pressing it all down in there, and then the next thing we want to make sure to do is we pulled off our old the hard plastic stem. So now you saw me collecting sticks out of the yard. Here we are picking which one's going to look best, and I just break it off. It was small enough I was able to just break it with my hands and poke it down in there because the inside of this is completely foam. I just stuck it down in there. It was long enough that I didn't even put any glue to hold it in, and it was really firm stuck down in there. In order to completely seal these. The thing about transfers is it needs to be sealed, and you can either use a spray paint or a liquid top coat, but I decided to wax the entire pumpkin just to kind of give it a more real life pumpkin look and feel, as opposed to that shiny kind of smooth plastic. So that wax gave it a kind of a I don't know, sticky, real texture like a pumpkin. So I went real well over the transfers. Again, just kind of pushing down, making sure that everything was completely sealed. The leaves kept trying to come up a little bit. So I had to push down and make sure it was sealed. And then I went back and I waxed the entire pumpkin, not just where the transfers were. And I love the way it made it feel. And it helps to secure and make sure that those stay in there. Where we pulled out the original stem, it had kind of a wide base and my stick doesn't. So using this cotton string and some very dull scissors, I am getting some of that, and I'm just going to wrap it around, kind of loose around the bottom there to cover where that edge is. And wouldn't you know, my daughter had been working on a test craft that she was doing with her Head Start class and happened to have some Elmer school glue sitting on the counter. So I went ahead and grabbed that and glued that that string down so that it would stay out wide to cover where you could kind of see some places where the styrofoam was and the whatever that coating is that's on the pumpkin. I guess it's paint, but it kind of feels like a real thin, plasticky latex kind of paint feel. But anyway, so I just wrapped that around and till I had enough of a spot where I felt like it was comfortable. And then I tied the simplest of bows, literally a shoestring bow here. And I just put that on the on the top there, just to kind of give it, again, just a finished look. But I love the way this turned out. I think this is the cutest idea, and it just gives you a way to dress up some pumpkins that you might have that you're just sitting on a shelf, sitting on the table, sitting on a coffee table, whatever. Okay, so second craft, number 2. I am making a pumpkin wreath. This idea came from another YouTuber, and it is We Craft Around. I loved this idea. This is a Dollar Tree wreath form. You get 2 of them for $1.25. And I'm just kind of bending it down and shaping it like a pumpkin like she did. And being very careful not to break it. It's very, thin, so you don't want to bend it too much. And then I don't remember where this ribbon came from. You guys may recognize it. I think it's probably Dollar General, but it could be Walmart. So if you recognize that container or this ribbon, then you may know, but I can't remember. I've had these forever, and I have them in green and gray and navy blue. And then I'm just using some pipe cleaners, cutting them with my scissors. Now we probably know why my scissors are so dull. And I'm going to hook it down, take that I cut each pipe cleaner into thirds, and I'm going to wrap it, and I'm doing it on the bottom one. I kind of figured out through this that I think I could have done it in the middle and been fine, but I'm doing 2 layers together, and I end up just throwing those rolls down on the floor behind my stool to keep them out of the way and to make sure that I always had enough. I don't measure. She didn't in the video either, but I don't measure exactly how long that is. It's probably about 6 inches, how long my ribbon is between pipe cleaners. And then I just bend it up and go ahead and hook that on. And I will continue to do this all the way around, again, on that bottom, used to be circle, and get as many in there as I can. I didn't really measure how many I had. I think in her original video she gives the number that she does on the inside and the outside, but I just kind of went around until I felt like it was full, and I used almost all the ribbon out of these 2. I do have a little bit left I can use for some scrap bows. If you make scrap bows, it's a wonderful thing to do. You save all your ribbon ends and just throw them in a container, and then when you go to make some scrap bows, there you go, you have them. So again, I just used the first one to measure, and then I just measured each one after that to kind of make sure they were all the same. It's not going to make or break it if they're not exactly the same, but you want them to try to be the same so that when you pull them apart, your wreath is full and even and you don't have any crazy things. So that's what it looks like. They're still all double, but that's what it looks like after I get them in there. And then this one is definitely from the Dollar General. I needed something to go around the top, and I thought I had 2 of these, and I didn't. So, other ideas is you can use 4 of the same ribbon and make a really full pumpkin all in the same color. I think if you had put the ribbon around the middle, you actually could have spread it out well enough that you wouldn't have needed to use another one. Or you can use double these and still have the two-tone, but have it be really thick and full. But this is what I had on hand, and I did pre-cut some pipe cleaners here. I didn't have any green ones, and I only had one left of the kind of gray white color, so I am using tan on this. But I do the same thing, and on this one I just went until I had run out of ribbon. So I'm going through and I'm making sure all my little pipe cleaner twists are tight, and then I'm cutting them off. And when I have them all cut off, I fold them over and make sure there's nothing poking out of the back. So now we need a stem. We have a pumpkin. So first we're going to go through and we're going to pull all these apart. I'm not really, I do go back and kind of get a little bit more of a theme where it's every other, where the inside comes out on one and then the outside comes out. I hope that makes sense. Of being able to get it so that it's full. So I do go back and kind of keep messing with it. So using my same sticks, I find one, I decide where the top of the pumpkin is from where I bent those wires, and I take my pumpkin, and I actually used that gray pipe cleaner and I wrapped around it to hold it in. Then I made a bow out of the raffia. I just wrapped some loose around the stem without it being a bow, and kind of put a dot of glue to hold that. And then I made this bow, and the string that I used to tie around all the pieces is the same string I used to just tie it around there and hold it on. And I did go ahead and use a little dab of glue. You don't see it here, but I used a little dab of glue just to hold it on there and make sure that it stayed and didn't ride up on my stem. I know it won't come off my stem because it has the big split Y there, but I didn't want it to bounce around on there. I wanted it to stay kind of down toward the bottom. So I am so excited. This is the cutest idea, and I'm so happy. Oh, and I went back and I covered, it really bothered me where all those little twist ties were. So I just took some scrap fabric and glued it down in a circle, and I added a hanger. Hindsight, probably will add the hanger first. But again, I just think this is so cute. So you'll see it here in the reveal.
Something's wrong, I waited up, wounds on my feet. Where will you be? Flickering through memories, the Polaroids yellowed in the sun, longing to be seen.